Hi, this is George from The Return of the King. In this video, I want to show you an interesting connection between the account of the 153 fish and the twinkling of an eye that is used by Paul to describe the rapture. Remember back in the days of the Revelation 12 sign, which was first discovered by Scott Clark, he had brought this phrase to light and its unique Hebraic meaning. That phrase is found here in 1 Corinthians 15, 51, and 52. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. Now, if you go to TorahCalendar.com, they have a very interesting take on what twinkling of an eye means. In Hebraic thought, evening twilight is understood as a transitional period between day and night. It is currently understood that it is evening twilight as long as two stars of medium magnitude are visible, but it is night upon the appearance of a third star of medium magnitude. In ancient times, some understood that night begins at the moment in time which is impossible to determine, called the twinkling of an eye. This is interesting, as Paul prophesies that the righteous would be resurrected in the twinkling of an eye. Again, we'd read this before. Behold, I tell you a secret. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. The twinkling of an eye is that moment when you go from light to darkness. You can see the transitioning period is right here. It goes from sunset until dark, sometime in that period of time. That's the twinkling of an eye. That also applies to morning twilight. When you go from night until day, you have this transition period where things are getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And that's where you transition. Now, here's where things are interesting. When we get raptured, we transition from earthly bodies to heavenly bodies. We transition from the mortal to the immortal. We go from a world that is filled with darkness to a world that is filled with light. The light of Jesus, the light of the world. Jesus spoke many times of being the light. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and the people love the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. While you have the light, believe in the light, that you may become sons of light. I have come into the world as light, so that whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. And now, speaking of the New Jerusalem, and I saw no temple in the city, for its temple is the Lord God, the Almighty, and the Lamb. And the city has no need of sun or moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and its lamp is the Lamb. So when Paul speaks of the twinkling of an eye, he could be giving us a hint as to when the rapture will occur, sometime after sunset or sometime just before sunrise. The account of the 153 fish occurs at dawn, just before sunrise. I'll let Gary Stearman tell you what that account is all about.
Prophecy by James Harrison. JR, the number 153, I just have to say that when Jesus stood on that shore, prepared breakfast, fire of coals, what you have is a complete metaphor for the end of the age. You have the sea of humanity, the net full of fish, the fire on the coals, which may be emblematic of the tribulation fire prior to the coming of the kingdom.
It says the 153 fish are saved from that tribulation
Saved from that tribulation fire. What do you think about that?
Pre-tribulation rapture, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And it's on the morning of the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples.
That's encouraging.
To me, that says that sometime in the next few years, just before the turn or around the turn of the millennium, at the dawning of the third millennium of human history, we can expect to be gathered in.
Now after the Sabbath, towards the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. From these verses, we can see that dawn is the most likely time that Jesus rose from the dead, but there's more evidence that it's dawn. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So from this verse, we can see that Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights. Jesus is on the cross on the afternoon of the 14th of Nisan. He dies in the afternoon and is put in the tomb before sunset. This is day 1 of the 3 days that Jesus spoke of, Thursday. The following day, the 15th of Nisan, is a high Sabbath. So we have night 1 and day 2, and it's a Friday. The next day is the 16th of Nisan, and it's a regular Sabbath. It's night 2 and day 3. The 3 days have now been fulfilled, and this is a Saturday. The 17th day is the first day of the week, the fulfillment of what Jesus said, 3 days and 3 nights is fulfilled at dawn. It's at the time when the night turns into the day, that period of time that is known as the twinkling of an eye. Now back to the account of the 153 fish. Just as day was breaking, Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. He said to them, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." Why the right side of the boat? It's because the harvesters of the fish are the disciples. At the time of the rapture, Jesus will be the one harvesting the saints. If we look in the heavens, this is what we see. On the morning of the rapture, just before daybreak, you see the bright morning star, which is Jesus, is in the constellation of Aries Tale, which in Hebrew means the Lamb. Pisces represents the Christian. The early Christians were called Pisces and Ichthus. Pisces is to the right of the Lamb. The fish are on the right side of the harvester, which is Jesus, just like in the account of the 153 fish. In the account of the sheep and goat judgment, Jesus will place the sheep on the right, and he's going to place the goats on the left. Salvation goes to those who are on the right of the Lamb, and then judgment to those who are on the left of the Lamb. And in the heavens you see Christ the Judge on the left in the constellation of Taurus. Now the story in the heavens reads from right to left, just like the Hebrew written language. The Christian is taken out before the judgment begins, and that would be the tribulation. The ancient Jews believed that the moon represented the Messiah. The moon can also represent the bride of Christ. When we become believers in Christ, we become one with him. The moon being the bride comes from Joseph and his dream of the moon and stars bowing to him. The moon representing his mother, who once was a bride. The moon is in the constellation of the rider of the white horse, which is Jesus, who has come to destroy the works of the devil. His bow, which you can see here, is pointed at the scorpion. The moon is also above the tail of the scorpion. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. For this perishable body must put on the imperishable, and this mortal body must put on immortality. When the perishable puts on the imperishable, and the mortal puts on immortality, then shall come to pass the saying that is written, Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? And you can see the moon is right above the stinger of the scorpion, which represents Satan. Next, let's look at the day that Christ rose from the dead. This is what the heavens look like on the day that Jesus rose from the grave, April 17th, 32 AD. Very similar to the day of the rapture. Just like the day of the rapture, the moon is in the constellation of Sagittarius, and it's above the tail of the scorpion. The bright morning star Venus is in the constellation of the Lamb, Aries Tale. When Jesus is on the cross, there is a thief on his right, and there is a thief on his left. Tradition has it that the thief on the right is the one who believes in Jesus, and the thief on the left is the one who rejects Jesus. The consolation of the Christian, Pisces, the fish, is to the right of the Lamb, Aries Tale. The consolation of Christ the Judge, Taurus, is on the left side of the Lamb. Venus, which represents Jesus, the bright morning star, is in the constellation of the Lamb that was slain, Aries Tale. If Venus represents Christ, then Mercury, which usually represents an angel, in this moment in time is representing the thief who becomes a believer, a Christian, in the constellation of the Christian, Pisces. There are only 7 objects that move through the heavens, so at times they have to play different characters to tell the story. We know what's going on down on earth, and we can see that being mirrored in heaven. To the left of the bright morning star, we have the sun, which usually represents God the Father. In this scenario, it represents the thief who rejects Jesus in the constellation of Christ the Judge, who then comes under Christ's judgment and enters into the fires of hell. So now let's go and look at the constellation of the rider of the white horse and the scorpion. The true rider of the 2 white horses described in the book of Revelation is Jesus. But there's a catch to this. The Jews will crown the false rider of the white horse as their king. So let me explain. In order to fulfill the feast days, the tribulation must start on the Feast of Trumpets. To fulfill the prophecy of the prophet Daniel, the tribulation must start with the signing of the covenant. So both must occur on the same day. All appointed times are being fulfilled in order, starting with the birth of Christ on tabernacles. The next appointed time to be fulfilled is the rapture. Shortly after the rapture, the Antichrist will come on the scene to explain away what just happened. It will take the world months to recover from the shock. During that time, he will work on the covenant. Israel believes that this man is their Messiah. Jewish kings are crowned on the Feast of Trumpets. And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he came out conquering and to conquer. Now when Jesus died, he had to die in Passover to fulfill the prophecy of Passover, the shed blood of a lamb saving us from death. They tried to kill him multiple times, but the time was not yet. God kept it from happening until the appointed time. To fulfill both Daniel and the appointed times, the covenant must be signed on the Feast of Trumpets. Now here's the thing, God doesn't even have to intervene here. It's just naturally the perfect day to sign the covenant. The symbolism for the Antichrist is just too much for him to not do it on this day. You sign the covenant protecting the Jews who believe you are their Messiah, their longed-for king, on the day that kings are crowned. What they did was they just crowned the false rider of the white horse. It will appear to them that he's conquering their enemies, and he will for a time, but it's just a ruse to draw them in, and then he will turn on them with a vengeance. At the same time, the false Messiah is being crowned king down here on earth. The true king, the true rider of the white horse, is being crowned in heaven. And when kings get crowned, they always have their bride with them. If the rider of Revelation 6:2 were the Antichrist, it would say that he was permitted to come out conquering and to conquer. The only person or being that doesn't need anyone's permission or authority is the leader, the king, the president, the one in the highest position, and that person is Jesus. If we look at the other horsemen, we see that 2 of the 3 other horsemen are either permitted or given authority. And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him. And they were given authority over 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. Now the black horse is about inflation. Inflation is a natural consequence of printing money, so it doesn't need permission. It's just going to happen. Another reason that Jesus is the real rider of the white horse is that white always represents holiness, not evil. The Antichrist is not holy. What I'm going to show you next is quite interesting. In the book of Daniel, we're also told that the tribulation will begin with the signing of the covenant. And he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, and for half the week he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wings of abominations shall come one who makes desolate, until the decreed end is poured out on the desolator. Notice what verse it is in Daniel that gives us this information. It's verse 927. The Feast of Trumpets begins at sunset on 927. So this looks like a hidden prophecy telling us when the covenant will be signed, on the day that it should be signed. Now let's get back to this area of the heavens, the rider of the white horse and the scorpion. Jesus, the rider of the white horse, came to destroy the works of the devil. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. And that's what we see here, a symbolic representation of that in the heavens. The moon representing the Messiah in the constellation of the rider of the white horse, Christ, who came to destroy the works of the devil. Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. And here in Hebrews we can see that through his death he has destroyed the one who has the power of death, the devil, the scorpion in the heavens. Before the start of the tribulation, we are told there will be signs in the heavens. On this chart of eclipses, the last set of total eclipses are all about the coming tribulation. There are 7 eclipses. The tribulation begins with the rider of the white horse. The first eclipse of the 7 is in the constellation of the rider of the white horse. The second eclipse is in front of the horns of Taurus, Christ the judge who is coming to destroy the works of the devil. The third and the fourth eclipses are in the constellations of the scorpion, which represents Satan and the Antichrist, the beast system. The fifth eclipse is in front of the horns of Taurus, Christ the judge who is coming to destroy the works of the devil. The sixth eclipse is in the constellation of the scorpion, again, which represents Satan and the Antichrist and the beast system. And then we have this final eclipse, the final and 7th eclipse is in the constellation of Libra, which represents judgment. So when Paul speaks of the twinkling of an eye, it's appearing he is confirming the time when resurrections occur. They occur at dawn. The account of the 153 fish, which is about the rapture of the Christian, occurs at dawn just before sunrise. Jesus rose from the dead at dawn as day is breaking. The view of the heavens on the day of the rapture and the day that Christ rises from the grave are very similar in typology and symbolism. In the account of the 153 fish, Jesus is telling us he's coming some year on the 15th day of the 3rd month on the Jewish calendar. When Paul tells us we will be changed in the twinkling of an eye, he's confirming this. The imagery and typology is consistent with what we find throughout the Bible. It is at dawn that we transition from darkness of night to the light of day. It will be at dawn that we transition from the mortal to the immortal. It was at dawn that Jesus rose from the grave, conquering death, from death to life, everlasting for those who believe from their hearts in Jesus. The key to knowing Jesus is coming soon for his bride is the Revelation 12 sign. From the last blood moon in the blood moon tetrad, it is 726 days. Strong 726 is the word harpazo, rapture. From the Revelation 12 sign to the 15th day of the 3rd month, it just happens to be 1,726 days to the 15th day of the 3rd month on the Jewish calendar. To understand what this chart is all about, click on the link that appears. I just want to thank you all for watching. I pray that God gives you the strength, the courage, and faith to make it through these final days. God bless you all. I look forward to meeting you all in the air very, very soon.